Okay, so Mediawiker is a SublimeText plugin that makes it possible to edit wikis from SublimeText without ever interacting with the browser. So right now what I have open is just a random module that I had open before. And this is a Lua module with syntax highlighting and the whole functionality that Sublime has that's open from my wiki. Whoops, and then if I go here, it's reflected here. I'm not actually going to edit this because it's used in like every single page, but I'll demonstrate making a new page and then how it saves to the wiki. So if you press whatever shortcut you set for it, if I make something that clearly doesn't exist yet, then it gives me this prefill text, and the prefill text that I have here is actually defined in this Jinja template that you can set. So you can do it based on whatever regular expressions or starts with and ends with, however you want to do it, in the title of the page that you're opening. So if I, 828 is the module namespace. So if I wanted to open a doc page, so again, some page that clearly doesn't exist, then it gives me, and so it changes to syntax highlighting of wiki text instead of modules. And it also gives me this text instead. And for example, if I did a cargo declare module, then I set here, it gives me another prefill and stuff. So it's really nice for creating a bunch of new pages. This doesn't have to be in the module namespace. This could be in the wiki namespace or just regular namespaces and not using modules. So if you wanted to have some prefill for templates being different for some prefill for regular namespace pages, you can do that. And then if I just save this, then in recent changes here, you can see that I actually just saved this page to the wiki. And then I'll go ahead and delete that because I don't actually want it. So it's really nice because editing, even if you use one of the extensions that gives you syntax highlighting or whatever in the browser, A, you lose all of your work if your browser crashes. B, you still don't have all of the functionality of something like SublimeText. Sublime is insanely configurable. You can add pretty much anything you want to do is possible to do by searching package control for whatever extension. And if you still can't find that, then you can write your own. It uses Python as the language for extensions, and it's pretty easy to figure out. So far, I've only written one. It gives me a hotkey that I can do this to change my table layout if I originally started in line and then I want it to span multiple lines. I couldn't find any plugin that did it, so I spent like an hour to figure out how to do that. So the way that you get this is generally when you're using Sublime. And so I guess if you're used to VS Code or something and you're like, oh, could I use this in VS Code or Atom? No, this is as far, I think there's one for Emacs also, which I've never used because I don't use Emacs. And then there's this one for Sublime. And as far as I know, those are the only two plugins that anyone's written for any text editor that let you actually directly save through the API to your wiki. So I highly recommend giving it a chance. Sublime has a really steep learning curve because there's no UI for anything. The way that you do things is you just have settings files like this. This is the entirety of the SublimeText UI. And I'm not going to show you the Mediawiker preferences because my bot password is in that, but the preferences to set up the wiki works like that. This is the repository for it. The dev is very responsive to feature requests. I've made a lot of feature requests over the past couple of years, and I coded a couple of them myself, but he's done a lot of work, and is really cool. I don't know him personally outside of GitHub, but he does a lot of work actively maintaining this extension. So I highly recommend everyone check this out. The syntax highlighting for the MediaWiki syntax isn't the greatest, but that's mostly because it's really hard to write good syntax highlighting. I mean, you can see it. The Jinja has exactly the same issue where you have to escape stuff to have code, and so since everything has to be escaped in order to have code, it's really hard to make syntax highlighting work well. But even if that doesn't work the best, it's still very useful just to have the API interface. So particularly if you do a lot of module editing, I think it's close to impossible to do without using this extension. And even if you just do a bunch of templates, I would still recommend checking it out.